The time period of 1850 to 1875 saw dramatic political changes in Europe. This period saw a shift from old conservatism to new liberalism, and many European countries moved quickly towards democracy. They achieved this through expanding the electorate by allowing universal male suffrage. In fact, by 1900, most European countries had at least allowed all of its men to vote in national elections. During this time period, we see a strong influence of nationalism and republicanism. Um, we especially see nationalism prevalent in the unification of Germany and Italy. In these two events, uh, nationalist sentiment was huge. Prussian nationals really pushed hard to unify themselves as a national group and form the German Empire. And the same thing in Italy. Don't forget, Italy, for centuries, Italy was comprised of at least half a dozen city states that were, pretty much autonomous and independent. And Italy, the peninsula of Italy acted as a more or less just a confederation, a loose alliance of these states. So, for them to, after centuries of separation, for the Italian people to come together and to unite, a great sense of nationalism was present there. And also we see a shift towards shift away from absolute monarchies and a shift to republicanism. This is especially a good example of this is the Third Republic of France. During this time period, France moved from authoritarian Napoleon style monarchy to a pretty effective republic, and it achieved that by expanding the electorate um, and allowing more people to vote and voice their opinions. This period also saw the breakup of the Habsburg Empire. Again, the breakup of the Habsburg Empire reflects nationalist sentiment. The empire was broken up into Austria and Hungary, um, and because the Hungarians were a pretty large minority group in the empire, and this breakup made other national groups living in the empire jealous, most notably the Czechs, the Slovaks, the Romanians, the Croatians, and there are many more. But all these people all had the same goal in mind. They all wanted to follow the example of Hungary. They wanted to make make their own nation based on their own nationality and their own language and their own culture. Um, and we also see a shift towards more liberal politics in Russia with the emancipation of the serfs. Um, the practice of serfdom was long abolished in most of Europe at this time, and Russia was kind of late to the party with that. But nonetheless, they did. They liberal policies that influenced Russian politics, and they emancipated the slaves, and they also reformed their local governments and their judicial system into a more modern Western European form. Great Britain especially moved towards democracy during this period with the Second Reform Act, which gave suffrage to almost all males. And then later on, in the latter part of this time period we're talking about here, we see slight rise of political feminism. Uh, you know, Political parties and political organizations devoted to the civil equality and rights for women. Uh, Also, during the latter part of this time period, we see the rise of socialism. We see, workers' rights groups devoted to the equal distribution of property and to better working conditions and better wages and fairer hours. Um, and in this time period, socialism really it blossomed into the political force it is today. In conclusion, the period from 1850 to 1875 saw major changes in European politics as Europe shifted towards the modern world.